60 Minutes Overtime.
Ready? 1, 2, 3, you press, and boom.
This is basically every TV correspondent's dream, to see themselves this large.
Anderson, you interviewed an artist named JR
Yes.
on 60 Minutes this Sunday. What appealed to you about doing this story?
You know, one of the things I love about working for 60 is the variety of stories you get to do. And I'm really interested in art. I collect. I remember during the Olympics in Rio seeing these pictures of these, athletes jumping over buildings, of giant sort of billboard-like things. I didn't realize that was JR. I'd seen his work in Rio, in a favela, and I suddenly sat down and looked at a book of his work and realized, oh my God, this guy whose work I've been seeing for years, it's all the same person.
And the scale of it is so large, even months and years after it's gone, you'll remember it.
Explain a little bit the process.
Okay, sure.
Magali Laguerre-Wilkinson was the producer on this story.
JR is a young Frenchman who's 35 years old. His art could be labeled as street art or social activism art. What's interesting about his work also is that it's ephemeral. It doesn't last forever. So you catch it in the moment.
When you come on the boat to Ellis Island, you see this from the boat. What do you hope people think about when they see it?
You know what? I hope they see a mirror of themselves.
The first time I met him was on Ellis Island, where he was pasting up photographs of immigrants, supposedly from around the turn of the century, on an old hospital that's not part of the Ellis Island tour. So when were you doing the work inside?
So I've started really pasting the work inside maybe 2.5 years ago.
From the end of the 19th century to the middle of the 20th century, 12 million immigrants passed through Ellis Island.
Whoa.
So those were the
so
doctors,
cool.
actually, that would welcome you when you arrive here.
If you got off the ship and your eye is a little bit red, or you've got a little cough, or you're sniffling, right away immigration officers would send you off to the hospital.
These are people who traveled thousands of miles to get here, and some of them had made it that far and were never going to make it the next mile to actually land in New York.
To every window you see Statue of Liberty or the skyline of New York, but you couldn't make it.
You can't get there. It's so close, but
so close. And in that place, you feel a lot of broken dreams of people who cross the entire world.
It's just a really kind of spooky, eerie place to wander around. It's got all these rooms. You just pasted it on.
I cut out.
And the spirit of the people who had gone through there, it's all kind of still there. That's amazing.
That was also on the first day.
Wow.
So that's literally like texture taking over.
It's so interesting how it changes over time. How it evolves. You kind of peek around a corner and there's a stairwell and you see a photograph of people walking up a stair, or what looked like people walking up a stair.
The feeling is that you don't want to be by yourself in there.
Believe it or not, they give me goosebumps, and each time I walk here, I never stay alone in some of those places too long. You feel it. And
you believe in ghosts?
Not particularly, but when I spend a lot of time here, I did felt, some presence.
Do you connect the past with the present?
I
hard
try.
not to.
Yeah. I remember right when I was pasting here, I was wondering, where is the Ellis Island of today?
I understand there's sort of a hidden message in some of the photos at the hospital.
I think JR kind of dug into a little bit his street smart old ways, where he used to be a graffiti artist and he would do things, that were a little bit illicit.
Even though he had permission at Ellis Island, what they didn't realize is that JR didn't want to just do exactly what the folks from Ellis Island wanted him to do.
I did one thing, actually, that I never told anybody, is that a couple of weeks before, I went to the border of Syria. And I met with people in a camp in Jordania, Zatari camp.
You were looking in a Jordanian camp of Syrian refugees.
I was looking for faces that look exactly like the people who arrived early 1900.
He used the bodies of these turn-of-the-century migrants from, the late 19th, early 20th century, and he pasted the photos of Syrian faces that he'd photographed at this refugee camp just a few weeks prior. And so you really can't tell
Did anyone notice?
I don't think so.
The people who were in charge of Ellis Island, they didn't know.
No one noticed. But no one have ever told me, those people looks very dangerous, like they shouldn't be on the wall. No one have even noticed that they came from a different place.
He's still a rogue at heart, and there are a lot of things in the world, I think, that are very troubling to him.
I think he's trying to make people look at other people in a way that they haven't before. Have everybody be seen in a way. And there's a lot of people that in the world that we don't see, that we choose not to look at, that we choose to pass on the street, we choose to think we know them, and then they're actually very different. And I think he challenges that. And I think that's one of the interesting things about him.